chairs with blankets on them to help with the echo, and they're like my pretend people out there. But it feels so good to see familiar faces and know that even though we're physically separated, we are practicing together. There's still an interconnectedness. And part of this, or I'd say the main practice, we want to increase mobility, we want to have strength and stability in our bodies, but stability for our nervous system and calming for our nervous system and thinking mind is just as important, if not more important right now. So I don't know about you all, but I've been going through emotional waves of feeling anxious, and then I feel thankful, and I cry, and then I feel scared, and I don't want to go to sleep, and then I feel like productive. It's like these different waves of emotions, and what yoga suggests is that we are, rather than get swept away by these waves of emotions, we're actually being very present and observing them. So right now, you could either close your eyes or soften your gaze. Just take a moment to check in with how you're feeling right now. And this could be physical sensation, perhaps. Like, is there an echo from the morning's events or the week's events? Maybe you have a sense of your nervous system state or the quality of your mental broadcast. We have a few simple ways we come back to again and again that are cues to your physiology that it's okay to be in a balanced nervous system state right now. It kind of coaxes us out of the stress response. And one is grounding. It's to simply bring your awareness to where you're making contact with the floor or whatever it is that you're sitting or lying on right now. Drop your attention right into your foundation. So really subtle, and the next one has to do with your breathing. So your exhales promote the calming response in your nervous system. So if you just simply let your exhale run its course all the way to the end, you don't have to force it. Let your inhale be received naturally. Your inhale promotes your sympathetic nervous system, the energizing response. Exhale, the more calming response. So just by letting your exhale get a little longer, all the way to the end, you could influence a bit of a kind of a self-soothing for the nervous system. See if you might feel that tangibly with each exhale. Soften the edges a little bit. Let your shoulders relax away from your ears. See if your exhale could actually help you feel a little heavier on the floor, like you could surrender to gravity just a degree or two more. Now, relax your jaw, your eyebrows, and even the roof of your mouth, your palate. That sounds really weird, but if you bring your attention there, could it just ever so slightly soften? Those three things, they're very subtle. Grounding, gentle, complete exhales, and to relax the muscles of your face, your jaw, your palate, are physical cues to your nervous system that right now in this room, there's not an emergency occurring. Join your hands at your heart. This is another valid practice, is to set an intention. And I think of it more as, what do you intentionally want to practice? And it might be gratitude, or it might be a sense of steadfastness, or compassion, or patience, or playfulness. But what would feel comforting or uplifting right now? Set an intention. You could bow your head to your heart, release your hands, and take your time to lie down on your back with your knees bent and your feet on the floor. And for our yoga sit-up, so this is where you might have a yoga block or a paper towel roll or something in between your knees to give a little squeeze. You don't need anything at all. You won't miss out on a lot of benefits. This just adds a bit more stability. And once you lie down, you can give the block a little squeeze and interlace your hands back behind your head. Hover your head about an inch or so off of the floor. And I call these your hip crest bones, the top front of your pelvic bowl. Draw your hip crest bones a little bit towards your belly button. So we're getting some engagement in your low core. And with your next exhale, draw the front lower part of your rib cage down towards your spine, down towards the floor to lift your head and shoulders up. And then inhale, lower down thoughtfully with control. So it's a little sit-up. Exhale, draw the front lower ribs down to lift your head and shoulders up like a little seesaw. And then inhale, lower down slowly with control, so you're not collapsing. Exhale, draw your front lower ribs, hip crest bones towards each other to come up. Inhale, lower down thoughtfully. So there's a couple things with this strategy here, is that by bringing your attention to your rib cage, and could you initiate the sit-up by the action to draw your front lower ribs down, your head and shoulders moves by association, that might change your experience a little bit. You might access deeper core, or just does that affect this experience for you? And there might not be a clear answer, but you're paying attention in your body in the present moment. Just a couple more. You can rest at any time, or the next time you come up, hold your sit-up. Exhales will help you to inhale. Your diaphragm actually works when your core is engaged. When you're ready to lower down, could you keep your front lower ribs, hip crest bones drawing towards each other and lower your spine down like you're unfurrowing it almost vertebra by vertebra without letting your rib cage pop up towards the ceiling a whole lot. And once you get down to the floor, notice how your body naturally breathes you. Let's try that one more time. Give the blocker a little squeeze. Exhale, draw your front lower ribs down. Hip crest bones, front lower ribs draw towards each other. Hold your sit up. You could keep your feet here, or you could lift your knees right up over your hips. Exhales will help you to inhale. And when you're ready to lower down, do so in slow motion without letting your rib cage pop up towards the ceiling, if you could help it. And then once you're done, lower down, have a rest, and feel how your body responds. The sit-ups are over. Whether they were challenging or not, notice the echo in your physiology, temperature, your breathing. So this is where you're going to now use your soup cans or your cans of beans or whatever they are here in your hands. They don't have to be super heavy, but have those at either side. First, we'll try it without any resistance or without any weight added. You could give the block a little squeeze. So this exercise is working with core stability, but it's also dealing with hopefully releasing tension or bringing some mobility into our upper back. And so extend your arms straight up towards the ceiling. And as you give the block a squeeze, or just a simple movement. First, really easy. Inhale, take your arms straight back overhead, so your thumbs may or may not reach the floor. Exhale, back up. Inhale, go back. Exhale, up. Now try to do this with ease and just feel how your body naturally moves. For most of us to bring the arms back overhead, our back will arch away from the floor a little bit. Rib cage will pop up or the pelvic bowl will tip forward. See if you could feel where your body, our bodies look for the path of least resistance. Where is that movement in your spine? One more. Okay, the next time you come up, stay there. And as you give the block or toilet paper roll a little squeeze, draw your front lower ribs, hip crest bones towards each other like your yoga sit-up. So your back body will now press into the floor a bit. Could you keep that integrated without letting your back pop up or your pelvic bowl or rib cage wiggle around as you inhale, take your arms back overhead. And exhale, back up towards the ceiling. Does that feel any different? So you could do this here. You have options. We could add the weights. That's why they're not very heavy. If you don't have weights, this is also an option. You could have your belt something like this that gives you a little resistance. I'm going to use the weights here that I have from Eugene Yoga. And as you give the block a squeeze, again, front lower ribs draw towards your spine. As your hip crest bones draw towards your belly button, could you keep that integrated without wiggling around? As you inhale, take your arms back overhead. And exhale, back up towards the ceiling. Inhale back. Now the hope is by keeping your core stable, you're going to be inviting more mobility into your shoulders and into your thoracic spine. That's your spine that lives in between your shoulder blades. You could stay with this, or you could lift your knees right up over your hips. So you're just adding a little bit more load to your core. Could you keep a quality of steadfastness as your arms, shoulders, upper back do this movement? A couple more if you're up for it. You could always go longer than I suggest or rest before I suggest. And when you're done, let that one go. So that could feel really challenging for some, not so much for others. We're also just looking for awareness right now of where is our midline? Where is core stability? This is one of my favorites. Okay, so either a block or you're going to use your hands on your thighs. Okay, so if you have a yoga block, you're going to take the block right under your knees and bring your forearms to the block so you make a block sandwich and start to press into the block. As you press into the block, draw your hip crest bones, front lower ribs towards each other. If you don't have the block, you're going to use your arms, press your hands into your thigh bones, probably straightish arms. And I'm already trembling a little bit. Are you feeling this one? So notice if your back is arching a lot, you're going to take hip crest bones, front lower ribs towards each other as you press your arms and legs into each other. Are you breathing? Exhales will help you to inhale. You could either stay right here, release at any time, or start to press your right hand and right leg into each other a lot as you now take your left arm and left leg away from your center. Inhale. Exhale back to this, we call it dead bug pose. Press your left hand, left leg into each other as you take your right arm, right leg away from each other. Exhale back to this version of dead bug. Whether you're using the block or not, this tends to be pretty effective. If you're trembling a little bit, it just means you're probably accessing some muscle groups, some area of core that isn't worked in this way usually. So it's actually kind of a cool thing. But if you get too fatigued, let it go. Is your low back starting to arch away from the floor? Could you keep a slight contact? When you're done, have a rest. Try not to inhibit your breathing, but feel how your body's intelligence breathes you. And reach your arms back, reach your legs in front of you, stretch out through your whole body, and roll onto your right side. So here's where we also miss the resistance bands, or some of us do anyway, for our happy yoga clamshells. Okay, so when you roll onto your side, stack your knees so they look even, and you're going to bend your knees and hug them in front of your hips. You can have a pillow under your head or your arm, whatever feels comfortable up here. And take your left hand and give your outer left hip a little wake up. So this is really just to bring awareness into your left outer hip, because this is the muscle group that we're going to try to strengthen now. And you can, once you're done, rather than bringing your left hand back here, bring your left hand in front of you so there's a sense that you're rolling forward. Press your feet into each other to lift your top knee away from your bottom knee and place it down gently. Lift and lower. And what I'd suggest is, since we're not using a resistance band right now, when you lower your knee, just barely touch. Don't completely let go. And again, your body is really brilliant. I mean, just think of how fast these neural pathways are connecting to move your body parts at your will. And what often happens is our body looks for the path of least resistance and the biggest movement. So what tends to happen is we lean back and we bring our knee way back and I get a bigger range of motion. But if you could refine it and keep your hips stacked, only lift your top knee as high as you can without it looking shorter than your bottom knee. It's less range of motion, but it's hopefully more specific into these outer hip muscles that are pelvic stabilizers and have a lot to do with how we walk and balance. Lift your top knee, hold it, it's isometric, and do little mini presses out into the air. Could you make a mental muscle connection with where that movement is initiated? Where's the effort? And then when you're done, again, have a rest, and that's a really important part. It's actually a life skill, right? To do the best you can with what you have. And then there's a surrendering aside, like a quality of acceptance and letting that go. But here's a stretchy part, okay? Just extend your arms out in front of you. And if your right shoulder's okay with it, you're gonna scoot your right shoulder a little bit more forward. So now your right hand looks a little longer than your left. Start to turn your gaze, head, neck, chest up towards the ceiling. You can try to keep your knees fairly stacked as you reach your left arm up. So your chest is starting to rotate up towards the ceiling. Roll your left shoulder back and extend your left arm up. And just to feel the difference, you can reach your fingertips up. Feel how you get like a little more space in your shoulder here. Now let the back of your shoulder, with control, drop down towards the floor. So there's a sense that the head of this arm bone is going back towards your shoulder socket. From there, start to extend your left arm out to the left to twist. If it's too much or hurts across your chest, bring your hand to your chest and just work with the twist in the spine. You could roll in and out of this twist like this, just to work with mobility. Or you could extend out through your left arm. And as you draw your shoulder blades towards each other, extend out through your fingertips. So it's an active stretch. A couple breaths here. And when you're ready, roll back onto your side and curl up into a ball and see if you can take a big breath into the back of your ribcage. And take your time to switch to your other side. So if you come to class regularly, you hear me talk a lot about how twisting doesn't actually detox like we say in the yoga world. I was disappointed when I found that out, but twisting is wonderful for mobilizing the spine and also freeing up our breathing. So, but first let's get to the clamshell. So you're gonna hug your knees up, stack your knees. Now, if you're not feeling your right butt and hip in this, you might experiment with your legs. Bring your knees down or farther up. We're really working on these, they're core stabilizers for your pelvis. Could give your outer hip a little wake up. This might seem silly, but it's really, you're bringing awareness into this area. Maybe you get a little fascial release. It's more like neural pathways. Bring your right arm in front of you. Press your feet into each other to lift your top knee away from your bottom knee. And then place it down with control. And I could feel that I'm kind of like rolling back with my rib cage. Really kind of roll forward. Like if there was a flashlight shining out of your belly button, it would point towards the floor. And the movement might not be such a big movement, but the hope is that you're getting pretty specific into piriformis and her friends, is what I like to call this muscle group. Both parts are part of the exercise. The lift is concentric muscle movement. Muscles are contracting and shortening to lift your leg. And then when you lower down with control, that's eccentric muscle movement. Those contracted muscles are lengthening while maintaining tone and control. That's really significant for healthy muscle function. We want both. And they say as we age, we lose eccentric muscle control faster. And you could lift your knee, hold it, that's isometric. We do a lot of that in yoga. Now do little mini presses out into the air, or if you're using a band, out into the band. Really try to make a mental muscle connection with where that movement is occurring. Where's the effort? Where do you feel tone? And then when you're done, have a rest. And get really curious about that shift from holding and work in your body to then resting and letting that effort go. You can extend your arms out in front of you. If your left shoulder's okay with it, scoot your left shoulder a little farther forward. You're essentially setting up your torso into a nice plumb line for twisting. And start to turn your gaze up towards the ceiling. Your head, neck, start to roll your right shoulder back so your chest starts to roll open towards the ceiling. And extend your right arm straight up into the air, just so you can feel a reach up with your right arm. And now let gravity kind of invite the head of your shoulder or the head of your arm bone back towards your shoulder socket. And you can extend out through your right arm. If it's too much, bring your hand to your chest. This is a big stretch for pec muscles in the front. Those are also secondary breathing muscles. So I'm just thinking of our breathing and our lung capacity during all this. You could roll in and out of this twist a little bit, just to feel where is mobility. And when you're ready, extend out through your arm, but to make it an active stretch, meaning that the muscles have some tone as they're lengthening. See if you could lift your right hand away from the floor if it's touching. Draw your shoulder blades towards your spine as you extend out through your fingertips. A couple breaths. Roll back onto your side. Your diaphragm, your main breathing muscle, lives in your rib cage and it connects to your spine right at around the base of your ribs. So if you kind of curl into a fetal position, see if you could take a big breath into the back of your body, the back of your ribs. When you're ready, come on up to tabletop pose, hands and knees. Your hands will be about shoulder width apart and about right under your shoulders or a little in front of your shoulders. Press down firmly and lengthen through your spine. So as if your tail could reach back and the base of your skull could reach forward. Notice again, now you've switched your relationship to gravity, but where are your front lower ribs, hip crest bones? And notice the movement as you exhale, round into cat pose. Complete exhale. Inhale, lift your sternum, your chest, forward and up. It's a little back bend, cow pose. Exhale completely to round into cat pose. Inhale, opposite. So I'm a big promoter of active stretching, meaning that your muscles have some tone in them as they're lengthening. It's less likely that you overstretch or tear from attachment points. You actually get flexibility faster, you get deeper into the muscle, more muscle fibers involved, and bone density. So that's the infomercial for active stretching. Finish with a rounded spine. Come back to tabletop pose. This is like your serratus is a muscle that wraps around your rib cage and it has a lot to do with shoulder stability. Press the floor away from you so you feel your upper back lift up towards the ceiling. And now with control, could you slowly lower your sternum down? Straight arms. It's normal if your body looks for mobility by bending the elbows, but up and down, I call this a chest elevator. And you're again working, it's not the same as cat and cow. You're really working with your shoulders and your upper spine. Finish by pressing the floor away from you so your upper back's lifting. Tuck your toes under and draw your hip crest bones, front lower ribs a little bit towards each other. Could you keep your table pose very stable as you now hover your knees about an inch off the mat? Exhales will help you to inhale. Try a little rock side to side. Just feel how your body responds. Does your core come on board? Does thinking mind have opinions about this experience? When you're ready, take your hips up and back, downward facing dog, and have some time to really explore with some movement. You could bend one knee at a time as you extend your other heel towards the floor. But to make this more of an active stretch, press your hands and feet into the floor so there's some muscle tone supporting you as you do this.
To get more steady in your down dog, press the balls of your feet into your mat and a little bit back behind you. And notice hip crest bones, front lower ribs as you slowly come forward to either table or plank pose. Whether you're in table or plank, press the floor away from you with your hands and draw your front lower ribs, hip crest bones a little bit towards each other. Inhale, up and back, downward facing dog pose. Exhale, slowly forward to table or plank. Remember, you could always rest and move at your own pace. You are the best expert in your body, but it does take practice to pay attention. One more of these if you're ready. And the next time you come forward, touch down with your knees. Have a rest in child's pose. Any version of child's pose that's comfortable. Your hips might not reach your heels, that's okay. You could have a pillow or something to prop yourself up for your head, or your forehead could rest on your arms or the mat. This is one of the life skills we're practicing, though, is to pay attention to how your physiology is responding to your experience. So right now, tune in and notice any sensation in your body. Maybe you feel your heart rate, temperature. Could you get really curious about how those exercises are over, but could you still feel how your body's metabolizing that experience? And again, take a big breath into the back of your body. You can come back up to tabletop pose. And lower all the way down to your belly. So we're going to try to wake up hamstrings and the back of the body a little bit. You can have your hands alongside your rib cage, about under your shoulders. Actively reach your toes back behind you as you lengthen forward through your spine. So again, that's action and resistance. This is two opposing forces. And as you reach your toes back and your spine forward, press down through your hands and start to pull your hands back like you're going to pull your whole body forward to curl your chest forward and up. Cobra pose. Exhale, lower down like you're going to make your whole spine longer. Inhale, pull your hands back, reach your toes back. So lift your heart forward and up. Exhale, lower down. Trace your breathing and notice, maybe it's just a little bit of movement. That could still be really deep work. Some of you might feel like you want to come up higher. That's absolutely okay too. The next time you come up, see if you could hold your cobra pose. And when you hold it, it will be a little bit lower with your floating ribs or these lower ribs on the floor. Reach your toes back, spine forward. See if you could start to lessen the weight in your hands. Now, if your low back screams at you or something like that happens, give yourself the support you need. It is not more advanced or more yoga to hover your hands. You're just seeing where there are internal resources available. And if it feels like that's supported, sweep your arms back behind you and lift your feet. Inhale, reach your toes and heart away from each other to rise up. Locust pose. Exhale, lower down thoughtfully. Inhale, rise up. Notice again, we're working with concentric and eccentric muscle control. As muscles in the back of your body contract to help lift you up. And as you keep lengthening through your whole body to lower down slowly without completely letting go. One more, come on up, hold it. What's your breath like here? Place your hands, press back to child's pose, a counter pose. And for the mindfulness practice, again, exquisitely tune in to the echo. Back bends tend to be more upregulating for the nervous system. Might you feel it in your heart rate or your body temperature? Come back up to tabletop pose. Press the floor away from you. Tuck your toes, one more stable table for now anyway. Exhales help you to inhale. See if you could take your feet a little wider apart and now bring your hips up and back into down dog, but bend your knees generously. This is one strategy to get the weight more in your feet than your hands. With your knees bent a lot, take your hips farther back so you can lengthen through your spine and your torso. For active stretching, press the balls of your feet into the mat. Inhale, lengthen through your legs. They don't have to straighten all the way. Exhale, bend. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, bend. Trace your breathing. And when you've had enough, take your time to step forward, Uttanasana, standing forward fold, where it's wonderful to bend your knees. Your hands could be at your shins or your blocks or your toilet paper rolls. Everybody press your feet down as you inhale, lengthen forward through your spine. Exhale completely to bow. Notice what your exhale is like here. Try that 2 more times. Exhale all the way to the end. Is your exhale different here than it was in Cobra Pose or your back bend? The next time you come forward and bring your hands to your shins. So this is kind of like one of those first exercises we did. Could you start to press your shins and your hands into each other? And if you notice you're pressing your knees back and locking them like this, everybody start to bring your shins forward, but keep pressing shins and hands into each other. Bring your shins forward so much you're bending your knees and you sit back, chair pose. But now bring your hands to your outer knees and open your knees towards your little toes and press into your hands. Okay, so it looks like this, and your hands are offering resistance. Could you feel clamshell muscles? Press down into your outer heels. And see if it's sustainable to sweep your arms forward or even have a little movement of your arms. Could you feel clamshell muscles helping? Press down to come all the way up. And release that effort. Stand in mountain pose. Your eyes could be open or closed. Just take a moment to feel again the echo of those efforts. We can even practice being in awe that your body is doing all of these things on your behalf without you having to direct it, without you having to understand how it works. Your heart rate's being regulated, your breathing, your hormones, body temperature. You might be digesting some food. All of these things are being taken care of on your behalf. Okay, we're going to be working with some balance. Let's use this. Take your yoga strap or your belt or whatever you have for this, and we're going to use this actually for the psoas walk. So most of you are used to me really over-educating about the psoas. And here we go again. Okay, so this muscle, you have 2 of them. They connect to your inner thigh bone, way up in your hip socket. So it connects to this big thigh bone, way up in your hip socket, okay? Now, say this yoga belt is the psoas muscle. You might not be able to see this very well in the video at all. Let's see. Okay, this connects there, and then it goes through the depth of your body. So you know those hip crest bones we were talking about earlier? It's deep inside your pelvic bowl and those hip crest bones, and it comes back through the depth of your body and connects to your lumbar spine, to each one of your vertebrae, all the way up from way down here, all the way up to the base of your ribs, the same place that your diaphragm connects to your spine. So this is why this psoas, its job, it's your biggest flexor. When you sit down, it shortens. Could you see how the strap just got slack? When you stand up, if you've ever seen anybody stand up like this, and sound effects to stand up, but then you stand up and it's like, oh, okay, my low back is okay. That's usually the psoas muscle going, oh my gosh, it's time to lengthen, it's time to lengthen. Okay, so we're gonna use a strap or something for a closed kinetic chain for our arms as we're trying to lengthen the psoas. Now the psoas is also really tied into our fight, flight, freeze response, like to pull into a fetal position. So whenever we're stressed, the psoas has a little reaction. It could be from a big traumatic event, but I'd say, like globally, this is a pretty stressful thing. And it's also really encouraging freeze, since we can't really fight or run away from this that well. So the strategy, the psoas has so much to do with our balance. If it's tight, it could pull us like this. Our posture, I'm exaggerating. Or it could be more like this posture, could also be a tight psoas. That has to do with how we walk, how we could stand and balance. So have your yoga strap or your belt. You just hold it loosely. Stand with your feet hip width apart and parallel. And now take a little step back with your left foot. Okay. Check that your feet are hip width apart. Now if you pivot your left heel in and out like this, your left thigh bone, could you tell that your left thigh bone is also rotating? So that would indicate that psoas is also kind of going in and out, right? So now bring your left heel straight back rather than having it pivoted in. You'll get a little more length to that muscle, maybe. It's this weird kind of uneventful exercise. Lift up onto the ball of your left foot, and as that pushes you forward, bend your front knee, let your body weight drop into your right foot. Now draw your left heel straight back, let your body weight drop into your back foot. Forward and back. And so this is a really big deal, to be able to shift your body weight from one foot to the other foot. And so many of my friends, this is really challenging. So wherever you are and how this feels, balance-wise, give yourself some credit, even if it feels totally uneventful, that this is a big deal. Your ankle mobility, your feet, your toes, the proprioception it takes, the connection from your brain to your feet, that you can be balancing on these two little feet right now is pretty remarkable. The next time, and also notice how your whole torso is going back and forth. The next time you come forward, you're gonna stay there. Okay? If it doesn't hurt, bend your right knee a little bit more. We can remember where pelvic bowl, hip crest bones could lift slightly, okay? Level rib cage, where's your head? Could you keep your torso and your right leg where it is? This is action and resistance. Could you keep that steadfast as you now send your left heel all the way back to the mat? As best as you can. So it's like these two opposing forces. Once your heel reaches, most people feel a fabulous calf stretch. Take your yoga strap or your belt about shoulder width apart, pull your hands away from each other out in front of you, and now lift your arms up overhead. So here, you might want to flare through your ribs. Try to draw your front lower ribs back towards your spine as you exhale all the way to the end like you're blowing out of a straw. Press down through your feet as you lift up with your rib cage. Pull your hands away from each other as you reach up and over to the right. Now, since the psoas connects all the way up to your spine at the base of your ribs, think of those yoga sit-ups. You could gaze towards your belly, draw your front ribs back and in. Just try a little bit of movement through your rib cage. Do you feel a lengthening through the left side of your body at all? And all the way up. And you could step forward. Let it go. Notice how your body breathes you after that. Try not to inhibit it. And we'll try the other side. Take a little step back with your right foot. Again, feet hip width apart. It's kind of like a walking stride to get to the psoas. Right heel goes straight back. Grab your yoga strap. Spring yourself forward and draw yourself back. So we're really working with ankle mobility, which has so much to do with the health of your knees, hips, and spine up the line. You're working with weight transfer. Feel how your body weight is shifting back and forth, and your whole torso is going along for the ride. And right now, as we're going back and forth, you're going to use this. So this is awareness in your body. So it's a mindfulness tool. Could come forward, stay there. Bend your left knee a little more. Upright pelvic bowl, upright torso. Could you keep that steadfast as you send your right heel all the way back? Once it lands, you might feel your calf. You also might feel how your back starts to arch. Take your yoga strap or your belt out in front of you. Pull your hands away from each other. You're strengthening rotator cuff muscles. And lengthen up through your spine. You might have a little drawing in of your ribs as you bring your arms up overhead. Exhale all the way to the end like you're blowing out of a straw. Exhale. Diaphragm's connected to the psoas. So the exhale actually helps to lengthen the psoas muscle. As you press down through your feet, reach up with your rib cage.
and over to the left. Now, since the psoas connects to that whole area of your spine and up towards your ribs, you might try a little movement to just see, does that change the stretch, the tug, the pull at all? When you're ready, come all the way up, step forward, and notice how your body breathes you. Try not to inhibit it. And if you feel a big breath after that, it's very likely that you gave a tug on your diaphragm muscle, and therefore letting you have a more expansive breath. So here, I'm going to take our soup cans and add it to our squatting exercise. So this is where I would maybe add a TheraBand, but we're just going to use these to have a little extra weight. And if you don't want to use them or you don't have weights, you don't have to use them at all. Bring your feet kind of wide-ish stance with your toes pointing out a little bit. It doesn't have to be extreme. So we're going to do a weightless squat. And when you come, well, almost weightless, a little bit of weight added. So here, when you come down, your shins are going to come out in front of your feet and your knees come out towards your pinky toes. So your kneecaps are really coming out over your feet. Naturally, when your shins go forward, your bottom's going to stick out back behind you, your pelvis goes back, and your torso will lean forward a little bit. We're going to exhale, press down to come up. Inhale, come down. Exhale, press down to come up. Inhale, down. Now we could add movement like this. Inhale, come down. Exhale, press down to come up. Inhale, come down. Exhale, press down through your heels to come up. A few more like this. Now I'm usually talking about sit bones and pelvic floor when we do this, but we're going to really try to get into our hamstrings. Sit bones are the base of your pelvis, those bony landmarks you sit on, and your hamstring muscles connect to them. The next time you come down, stay there, and you could bring your weights in front of you. Lift your left heel and lower your left heel in slow motion. Imagine you're going to make your foot longer. Like you could reach your inner heel and outer heel, back, back, back. Let your heel barely skim the mat. When you're ready, press down, come up. Inhale, come down. Lift your right heel. Almost like you could pull your right foot back on that diagonal. Slowly lower your heel. Could you feel hamstrings, calf, and maybe your arches? Let your heel barely skim the mat. When you're ready, press down, come up. Inhale, come down. Press down through the balls of your feet. Lift both heels. Reach your heels back behind you like you're going to make your feet longer. Slowly lower them down. Let them barely skim the mat. When you're ready, press down, come up. Try a couple more without as much focus and just feel mobility. And come on up. Could set your weights down. Shake your legs out. So I say this a lot, but for basic maintenance, you don't have time for an hour practice. A little psoas walk. Lengthen, release tension in the psoas. A little squatting. Work with muscle strength in the back of the legs and release tension in the pelvic floor. You might feel just a little more upright posture at ease. The movement actually creates synovial fluid, so you're lubricating your joints. All right, step towards the front of your mat. Join your hands at your heart. Remember your intention. How could that quality influence your efforts or your narrative? Press down through your feet. Inhale, reach up. You could lean back if you like. Exhale the forward fold all the way down. Inhale, long spine. Exhale the bow. Inhale, lengthen forward. And a bow. Inhale, long spine. Step back with your left foot into a big lunge. And this is, you could use your soup cans to have the floor a little higher, okay? Or toilet paper rolls, or your blocks.
You're looking for your right shin to be straight up and down, and your feet to be about hip width apart, right from left. You're going to give yourself a little yoga adjustment. Normally, what often happens is our right hip will kind of sashay out to the right. Take your right thumb to your right hip crease and encourage your right hip to roll back. Now, as you kind of actively reach your right hip back, lengthen forward through your spine, action and resistance. Press down into your right heel. Could you feel clamshell muscles a bit? Okay, here, could you keep your pelvic bowl steady? Maybe bring your right hand to the back of your pelvis and twist to the right. Turn your gaze, head, neck, chest to the right. You could extend your right arm up. Exhale, unwind, sweep your right arm underneath you. Inhale, twist this direction, twist to the right. Follow your breathing. Now, there's all this movement and interesting stuff happening with your upper body, but could you keep an awareness in grounding? And could clamshell muscles help? When you're ready, touch down, rock and step forward, Uttanasana, standing forward fold. After twisting, notice what the length of your exhale is like. Inhale, long spine. Exhale all the way to the end. Inhale, lengthen. If we can release tension in our main breathing muscles, and the exhale might get longer, this could be a real gift to your physiology. Inhale, lengthen forward. Take a great big step back with your right foot. You might give yourself a little boost up, whether you're using blocks or soup cans or what have you. Check that your left shin is straight up and down. Bring your left thumb to your left hip crease. Roll your left hip back. Or we could even think of those sit bones again. It's kind of weird, but press your left sit bone back. It'll maybe help square your hips as you lengthen forward through your spine and the base of your skull. Press down into your left heel. Could you feel some strength or something happening in your left hip? Try to keep that steady as you twist to the left. Turn your gaze, head, neck, chest to the left. You can extend your left arm up. Exhale, unwind. Inhale, twist to the left. You could use your right hand as a little bit of leverage. Now, it's not wrong for your pelvis to kind of follow along and twist along. You'll get a greater range of motion. But if you keep your hips steadfast, does it make a difference? Our bodies tend to look for the path of least resistance. So you're creating your own resistance. And the idea is if you keep that stable, you might get some of this mobility or twisting more in your upper spine. You can release back to the floor. Step back to downward facing dog pose. Again, here you could bend your knees to take your hips farther back. Exhale all the way to the end and be really curious what your mental broadcast is like at the very end of your exhale. Is there any little pause in between your exhale and inhale? Press your feet towards the back of the room or the back of your mat. Exhale slowly forward to plank or tabletop. Draw your hip crest bones towards your belly. Now you could hold plank or touch down with your knees or add this challenge. Inhale lightly, toe touch to the right. Exhale back to center. Inhale, toe touch left. Exhale back to center. How steady could plank pose be? When you're done, touch down with your knees. Everybody have a rest in child's pose. And again, as you rest in child's pose, tune in to the aftermath. Meaning, just the exercise is over, but could you feel how your body is still metabolizing the event of plank pose? Doing the best it can with the resources available to bring things back to balance on your behalf.
So from here, wow, an hour feels a lot different than an hour and 15 minutes or an hour and a half. Go ahead and lie down on your back. So you could have your feet on the floor, knees bent. We'll do a bridge pose. You could have your weights nearby, if you like, to add a little something, one on either side. But let's just start with the bridge pose first. You're going to check that the back of your head is on the floor and your head is pretty level without your chin jetting up like this. Press down through the back of your head. Snuggle your shoulder blades a little bit towards each other as you press down through your shoulders. Press down through your feet to lift your hips up. And as you press into your feet, try pressing to all four corners of both feet, but a little bit into your outer heels. Your knees might even go wider. Could you feel clamshell muscles helping? Now isometrically pull your feet back towards your hips. Could you feel glutes and hamstrings? So we're going to try to use that. Are you breathing? When you're ready, lower down. We're going to add movement with the arms. You may or may not add your cans. Okay? With your inhale, press down to lift your hips up, sweep your arms up and back overhead. Exhale, slowly lower your hips down. Bring your arms down slowly. So at the very end of your exhale, your hips and your arms come down at the same time. Inhale, press your feet down even as you pull them back towards your hips to lift up. Arms go up and back. Exhale, lower down with control. The reason why I suggest that your hips and arms come down at the same time is simply that you have to pay attention in your body in the present moment in order to do that. When we pay attention in our body in the present moment, the mental broadcast tends to turn down a little bit and the nervous system can also calm a little bit. That's the strategy behind it. Try a few more times. Next week, if we have our TheraBands, we could have a TheraBand tied around our thighs so we could press out into it. Doesn't that sound fun? One more. Once you're done, hug your knees in towards your chest. You could rock side to side. Maybe little circles. You could bring your left foot to the floor, cross your right ankle past your left thigh bone to make a figure 4 shape. You could flex your right foot. Just open your right knee forward towards the front of your mat. This might be plenty of a stretch, or you could lift your foot up, hold the back of your thigh. Maybe you use your strap around the back of your leg to make that reach more accessible. But to make this more of an active stretch, provided you don't feel it in your knee, press your knee forward. So we're actually using those clamshell muscles as they're lengthening and stretching. You could try a little rock over to the left. Is there movement occurring with your breathing here? And if so, does the movement of your breath affect sensation at all? You can release when you're ready. Shake it out a little bit and switch sides. Left ankle crosses over. You might choose to leave your left or right foot on the floor. Your right foot could also go on a block, or maybe you could use a wall. So it's whatever really works for you. There's more than one way to do all of this. Flex your left foot. Press your left knee open towards the front of your mat. So much of this, like how I will never do lotus pose, and I've done yoga for over 20 years. A lot of this, how these shapes look in our body, have to do with genetics and the shape of our skeleton and our bones. So this particular posture, yes, it has to do with your muscles and ligaments and fascia, but it also has to do with the shape of your hip socket and your thigh bone. So we really want to honor that and not force into, we don't want to force into shapes.
to rock your figure four a little over to the right. That might get into a different nook or cranny. And tune in to the movement that occurs with your breathing. When you're done, release that. If there's any other yoga pose, maybe happy baby, or just to stretch it out. If there's any other movement you'd like to do to get ready to rest, please do that. And I know for a lot of people, including myself, when you're doing a class like this online, it could be easy to skip Shavasana, but I'm going to really suggest, please do Shavasana. That's our resting pose, and it's because this is where some of our really deep benefits can come from. So you're going to set yourself up to be super cozy. You could lie on your back, maybe put a pillow under your knees or cover up with a blanket. If you'd rather lie on your side, that's absolutely okay. One of the things I miss is saying, hey, does anybody need an extra blanket or sandbag or eye pillow? So I can't be your yoga butler. I just know that I miss that. To take your time to get whatever you need to settle in and be comfortable. And Shavasana, our body needs rest. You may have heard the term rest and digest, or rest and repair. And your body literally needs rest to be able to digest. If you've ever lied down for Shavasana and your tummy starts gurgling, yoga teachers are saying, yay, because that is showing that digestion is taking place. We digest our food and our body repairs itself when we're in a calm nervous system state. It's one of the reasons, or at least a balanced nervous system state. This is one of the reasons why stress is not good for us, which sounds kind of discouraging. It's a stressful time, but we have some remedies. So to feel this shift to letting go and resting a little more tangibly, as you settle in, once you're comfortable, take a moment to curl your fingers in, curl your toes in, kind of, you could scrunch up your face, maybe lift up your head, maybe even draw hip crest bones, front lobes towards each other. Feel some tone in your body and then release that effort. So to tangibly feel that shift from holding to letting go of tension. Your eyes could be closed. And let your breath be natural. There's no need to coerce or inhibit your breathing in any way. It might get rather shallow. However it's showing up is correct. Your body's wisdom will breathe you. One way to release tension in muscles is by using them. You bring some blood flow, sensation, awareness, then it's more likely muscles could release tension. So right now, use your imagination to invite your muscles to soften their grip on your bones. So you might rest a little heavier towards the earth. Relax your jaw and in between your eyebrows. Even your palate, the roof of your mouth, you may or may not feel anything, but if you bring your awareness there, invite it to soften or broaden, like tension could melt away. Your thinking mind will think, that's what it does. But rather than getting swept into planning or problem solving or memory right now, see if you could be an affectionate observer. And just let thoughts drift by, kind of like you'd experience sound. Could be aware of hearing sound without reacting to it. Be aware of your thinking mind thinking without reacting. Nothing's going to get done right now anyway, even if you think about it. Give yourself a gentle reminder that right now, just for a few minutes, is just for rest.
as best as you can. Just rest right now. Bring your awareness back to grounding, where you're being held and supported right now. It's so simple that it gives your thinking mind a place to go in your body, in the present moment. It's also a bit reassuring for the nervous system. Where's up, where's down, where are you being held? Very simple. You can tune in and just be curious, what's your inner landscape like? Do you have a sense of your nervous system state or the quality of your mental broadcast? may or may not, but the fact you're being curious with your experience or your relationship to your experience is what we're getting at. As you see how you're feeling, you can take your time to bring movement back or deepen your breath according to how you're feeling. For some people, Shavasana, they melt into the floor and they don't want to get up, and it feels like going to nap time, and you're welcome to do that right now. And for others, Shavasana could actually feel a little bit unsettling, like you might feel eager to get up. That's perfectly natural too. We are all so unique on all of these spectrums. So how this stuff works for you is unique, and you're the best expert. So you take these tools and skills and see what works for you, what might not. Eventually you'll make your way up to a seat. And once you're seated, you could either have your eyes closed or you could have a soft gaze. Let's take another moment to check in. I'm really encouraging myself and my yoga friends to just take a few moments every day, just be 2 minutes, to check in. What's your relationship to your experience right now? Is your nervous system racing? Are you feeling lethargic? Do you feel relaxed or content? Not to criticize, but to just see if you are somewhat anxious or feeling depressed, like what could be some remedies? We have some tools in our toolkit to help nudge towards balance. As you join your hands at your heart, one of those tools, it's as simple, it could sound like yoga woo-woo a bit, but it's your intention. It's that attitude or quality of heart that you want to intentionally practice. And just like you could strengthen neural pathways to your clamshell muscles, we can strengthen neural pathways for patience with ourselves, or a little less urgency, or feeling more confident, or what have you. Just take a moment to acknowledge the layers of your practice and your efforts. That could be in class, but it could also be all your effort to just take care of your family or your responsibilities in this challenging time. To acknowledge your efforts. Thank you all so much. Namaste. Thank you, everybody. I know I went over. I traditionally go